So, and my nums dot length in this case is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my nums dot length is going to be equal to 7. So we can confirm that by simply logging that up here. So I would say nums dot length. So I can just comment this out for the time and run this program. So you can see here that my nums dot length is returning 7. So we are going to go over 7 items in this array, starting from the 0th element. So let me uncomment this and remove this piece of code. Now I am going over the whole length of the array that is set in my condition, and I'm going to be going over all the elements in the array one after the other. So which is why I am incrementing by 1 and not 2 or 3. So in this case, I am looking for a number in this array that is, let's say, equal to 66. So what I would need to do is I will check if we are at that number. So, and the way I'm going to do that is, okay, let's say before I do that, let's just try to log this I, and let's see what we have. So we would see here that my I is just counting from 0 to 6. And you might be wondering why my I is not giving me the elements in my array. And that is because, just like you saw earlier, my nums.length is 7. And I am starting from 0. And I'm going all the way to less than 7, which is going to be 6 in this case, which is why you can see 0 to 6. So I just need you to understand that this nums.length doesn't represent the elements in the array. It just represents the length of the array. So we can go through all of the elements in the array. Now, to access the elements in the array, to access the values that we have.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, why is it logging zero at the first since the zero is not in the array?
Yes. It is
Okay,
logging 0
okay,
because of our initialization.
okay.
So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but we don't even have 56 and 66 in this output. And that is what I am explaining, that my nums.length doesn't have anything to do with the elements inside of the array. It is just keeping track of the length of the array, which is 7. So this is just equivalent to saying I less than 7. It is exactly the same thing. So it is just keeping track of a number, not the elements in the array. So to make use of the elements in the array, we need to access them using this syntax. So we would say nums at I. So let's say I am just trying to access the second element here. So what I would do is say nums at 1, because programming starts from 0. So this is the 0th element, which is the first number, then the first element, which is the second number. So let's say we are trying to access the second number. So we are going to be accessing the first element of this array, which is going to be 1. So let me just log this so you would understand what I'm saying. It's better to see it in action than trying to explain. So if I log this, it is returning number 2, which is the second element in this array. So you know what, I would even like to switch up the numbers I have in this array so it is not confusing. So I'll just have random numbers. So let's say 455, then 667, then 888, then 999, then 456. So you can see that it is picking the element, not the number. So when I say nums at 1, it is not going to look for number 1. It is going to look for the first element in this array, so which is the second value. So when I run this, I am expecting to see 667. So when I put 0 here, what am I expecting to see? It is going to return the first value, which is 455. So just like if I put 4 here also, it is going to return the fourth element, which is 456. So I just want you to understand that this number I have here it is not the value, it is just representing the element that we have at that position in our array. And the position starts from 0 all the way to however long my array is. So now that we know how to access elements in an array, we can go back to the for loop to access the element in this array. So, sorry, is there a question?
No, sir, you can continue.
Okay, okay. So, we want to access all the elements in this array to check or to find a number we are looking for in the array. So, the first thing is we need to make sure that we are going through all of the numbers in this array. And the way we can do that is by finding the length of the array using nums.length. So I know you might be wondering that why can't we just count these numbers and add it here? So we can just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can do that also. But imagine this array let's say it has thousands of data. We can't sit down and start counting. So that is why we just use the nums.length, however short the array is. So because you can even make counting error or something. So just use nums.length to run through all of the elements in the array. So now that we have made sure that we are going through all the elements in this array, to access each element at the particular iteration, so I here represents iteration. So to access each element, so we are starting from the zeroth element in this case. So our for loop is helping us start from the zeroth element. So we are going to be accessing the zeroth element, then it will go back, then access the first element, go back, then access the second element, the third one, all the way to the whole length of the array. So when I run this, you can see that we are getting all of the values in the array. Now I want to check if my number, so if the number I am checking right now, if it is equal to number 999, so I want to now perform another action that says I have found the lucky number. Then, so now let's run this. So if I run this again now, you can see that it returns all of the elements in the array. It returns 999. Then after 999, it says it has found the lucky number, which is 999. Then it still goes ahead to complete the whole array. So it still goes through all the elements in the array even we have found the um after we have found the number we are looking for. So in this case, what we would need to do is we would use one of either break or continue keyword, which is what someone asked of earlier. So this is where the break and the continue keyword can come in handy. So because we have already found the number we are looking for, we don't need to go through the remaining numbers in the array to save time. So because there can be thousands of numbers left in this array. So and we have already found the number. So what's the purpose of going over other numbers? So let's see what we can use. So if we say break here, so after finding the number, then we say break. Let me add this to my if statement. So after finding the number, then logging this, I want to break the loop. So now when I run this again, you can see here that it doesn't print out the remaining numbers I have in the array because I am breaking out of my for loop. So after I find number 999, we are going to break the loop. So we don't need to waste time going through the other numbers inside of my array. But what if I use the second one, which is continue? So if I use continue, you can see here that it still goes on. So After finding the number 999, it is still continuing the loop. So, and what continue does is it just keeps the current iteration. So continue just keeps the current iteration. So let's say after my continue statement, I have something here, or sorry, let me keep it outside of the loop. So let's just say I have something random here. Now, if I run this with the continue statement, you can see that it is returning random, random, but it doesn't return random after finding the lucky number. So let me reduce this complexity a bit. So let me even remove this console. Then let's just say if the number is 999, it should return continue. Sorry, it should continue. So when I run this piece of code again, you can see that after 455, it prints random. So this is where the 455 is coming from, and this is where the random is coming from. So after 455, we are going to print random. After 667, we print random. After 888, we print random. But after 999, then the code checks if the number is equal to 999. So because the number is equal to 999, we don't want to print random. So we just use the continue keyword. And the continue keyword is going to skip this current iteration from where it is currently. So it is going to skip every other part of the for loop, however long it is. So, and in this case, we are skipping the random login. So we are not going to be logging random to our console, which is why we don't have random after 999. But if I change this to break, it is going to exit the whole loop, and we can see that after 999, it stops printing. In contrast to printing 456 and 765 when we use continue, when we use break, it just exits the whole loop after 999. So that's the difference between break and continue statements. And these statements also work exactly the same way if we use a while loop as well. But the syntax of my while loop is quite different, because in my while loop, I'm going to have the condition. So let's say my condition here is when I is less than norms dot length, just the same condition as my for loop. But in my while loop, in this case, I have not initialized I. So let's say I try to run this. So let's say I say console dot log norms at I, just like we did for the for loop. So if I try to run this, what do you think would happen? We are getting an error here that says I is not defined. And that's because I have not initialized it anywhere in my code. So my program doesn't know what I stands for. So we can just come outside of the while loop, then say let I be equal to 0. So like this, I have already stated that my I is starting from 0, and this is my condition, just like we have for the for loop. So the for and the while loop, they perform similar operation, but it's just the syntax that is different. So now after I've done that, I can run this, and you can see here that it just keeps printing 455, and it never ends. It will print this till eternity, because we are not adding any increment to my condition. And the reason why it is printing that is because my I, since my I is 0, it is always going to be less than the length of the array. So because I'm not changing the value of my I, this is going to print till eternity. So I would stop this, then add an increment. So to add an increment here, I can simply say I plus plus, and when I run this, you can see it prints out all the numbers in my array. So similarly, I can say I equal to I plus 1. So this is another way of writing your increment. And when I run this, you can see that it prints out all the numbers in the array.